Hi, we're back from our Europe trip and I've been working on some cool Masterpiece stuff I thought I'd tell you about. I've been doing some kind of architectural work, which is going to facilitate some of the more advanced things that I've been planning with Masterpiece. You might remember from the early days, I was talking about actions and how I wanted every action in the app to be able to be triggered by a external event like a foot switch press. I also wanted to be able to kind of schedule actions and be able to record them so that you can record and then play them back. Now that facilitates some really cool stuff. The main thing that I've got in mind is a non-destructive workflow. So with Loopy right now, when you do a session recording, it just records a stereo mixdown of the audio. But with Masterpiece, I want to be able to record all of the separate tracks as well as the actions you perform on them. So if you adjust the pan or toggle reverse, I want to record that action happened and when, so that then you can go in and edit your recording afterwards. You can change the timings, and it's kind of going to change the app from something that's got a primarily performance-based workflow into something where you can actually do post-production and mastering, which is really important to me. The other cool thing with actions is if you can record and schedule them, then you can do sequencing for performances. So we talked about sequence tracks a while ago, and that involves either recording or manually sequencing a set of actions and then putting them on a track and then having it play back, just like with audio on a track. But these are a particular set of actions. And that would allow you to do things like sequence an entire performance. So you set up your session and you set up all of the actions in advance. And then when you begin performing, all you need to do is hit play. And you don't have to worry about tap dancing on pedals. You can just perform. And I think that's going to be really good for both live performance and kind of studio play, where you just want to focus on performing as best you can, rather than messing with the hardware. All that stuff revolves around actions, knowing when an action occurred and being able to recreate it sometime in the future. So typically with app development, you'll have some functionality that runs in response to an action, like a switch changes, you change some setting. I needed to be able to decouple that functionality so that I can just deal with the setting change on its own. And then that means that action can be invoked from anywhere. So I've introduced the concept of an action provider, which is a particular kind of object in the app which has a set of actions it can perform. So now, rather than, for example, just changing a setting, when the switch value changes, it'll actually create an action which has a few things associated with it. It has the code that's required to make that action happen, and it has an identifier which allows you to refer back to the action later. And it has a subject, which is, for example, if you're changing the reverse setting for a track, it'll identify the track that setting is being changed on. So now when you hit the switch, it creates that action and fires it off, and that fire creates an announcement to the rest of the app that that action has happened. So that lets a sequence recorder, for example, take note of when the action happened and what the action was. So then, and this is the really cool bit, when you're playing back, all of those actions have owners, and we can basically get that action again from the action provider. So in the case of the reverse switch, for example, if we see a reverse coming up in the sequenced timeline, we can get a copy of that action again and fire it off once more, which will run that piece of code again. So it's kind of a different way of thinking about how to program all of the interface. Now, rather than just having code be run, I'm creating a kind of a wrapper around that code that lets me sort of talk about that particular action. So this is all a very complicated way of saying there's this way of kind of dispatching actions, and it's going to facilitate some really awesome stuff with Masterpiece. Okay, that's all from me. See you later.